The Man Who Didn't Mind Losing. Chapter 1. The Quiet Defeat. It began with the rain. Not a heavy one. No, just that kind of drizzle that seems undecided, like it's not sure whether to fall or retreat back into the clouds. Samuel Greer stood under the rusted awning of a bus stop on Elm and Fourth, holding a paper cup that used to have coffee in it, watching the city go by as if it had somewhere better to be. And perhaps it did. Most things did. He wasn't a man people noticed anymore. Gray hair too early, a jacket too large, the slight stoop of someone who's been waiting longer than he meant to. But his eyes, pale, almost translucent, still carried a quiet intelligence, the kind that noticed the pattern of raindrops on the pavement or how the pigeons never really got wet. The bus was late. It always was. He didn't mind. He had nowhere urgent to be. Just the library, the one across from the park where old men played chess and argued about things that no longer mattered. Samuel liked that. The uselessness of it. The absence of winning. "Hey, Sam." The voice came from behind him, tired but familiar. He turned to see Nora, the librarian, umbrella half collapsed and hair a small disaster. She smiled, or tried to, and joined him under the awning. "You missed Tuesday again," she said. "I didn't miss it," Samuel replied. "I just postponed it indefinitely." She gave that look, half amusement, half worry, that people give to those they think are slipping quietly out of the world. "You're going to outwit me with words again, huh?" "Only because you make it easy." They stood in silence for a moment. Cars hissed by. Somewhere a horn complained. Nora tilted her head. "You know, people keep asking about you. Mr. Greer, the professor who disappeared. That's what they call you." "I didn't disappear," he said. "I just stopped showing up." Samuel had once been a lecturer in philosophy at the university. Not a famous one. Not the kind that fills lecture halls. But his students remembered him. The quiet tone, the way he asked questions instead of giving answers. He left without drama. No scandal, no breakdown, no farewell dinner. Just one semester he didn't return. The department chair sent a letter. Samuel never replied. In the months that followed, rumors did what they always do. They filled the silence. Some said he'd gone mad. Others said he'd joined a commune in Oregon. The truth was simpler and far less interesting. He'd just grown tired of pretending that knowing things was the same as living them. The bus arrived with a metallic sigh. They stepped in together. The driver didn't look up. Nora found 2 seats near the back. Samuel sat by the window, watching his reflection blur with the rain. "You know," she said, "you could come back. Everyone's short-staffed. You'd have classes full of students who'd actually listen this time." He smiled faintly. "I've had enough of people listening," he said. "Then teach them not to." That made him laugh, genuinely, for the first time in weeks. The bus rolled through the old neighborhood. Empty storefronts, papered windows, a mural fading into gray. Samuel thought of the classroom he'd left, the smell of chalk, the murmur before lecture, the way his own words would hang in the air, heavy with meaning he no longer believed in. He had once given a lecture titled The Virtue of Losing. Half the students had thought it was a joke. The other half had written it down like scripture. He'd told them, "You spend your life trying to win, but you never ask, what happens after that? What do you do with victory, once you hold it and realize it changes nothing inside you?" He still believed that. Even now. Especially now. They reached the park stop. Nora stood. "This is me," she said. He nodded, but didn't move. Before leaving, she placed a folded piece of paper on his lap. "For when you stop pretending you don't care," she said softly. Then she was gone, umbrella swallowed by the mist. He unfolded the paper. Inside was a note, short, almost childish in its simplicity. "Lecture Hall B, 201. Tuesday, 6 p.m. One night only. Just talk." Samuel sighed, then smiled, small and tired. Nora had always been better at hope. That night, he walked the city until the streetlights blinked awake. Every block carried a memory. The bookstore that used to smell of cedar and ink. The cafe where he'd graded essays until his eyes blurred. The bridge he crossed the night he decided not to return. He stopped at the railing, looking down at the black water. The wind was sharp. Somewhere behind him, a voice said, "You thinking of jumping, old man?" He turned. A young man. Hoodie, restless energy, leaned against the lamppost, cigarette glowing like a tiny confession. "No," Samuel said calmly. "Just thinking." "About what?" "Whether anything we lose ever really stays lost." The young man smirked. "You sound like a poet." Worse, Samuel said. A teacher. The boy laughed, flicked the cigarette into the river. Then you've lost already. Maybe that's the point, Samuel said. They stared at each other for a moment. Two strangers separated by decades and the quiet weight of experience. Then the boy shrugged and walked away, leaving Samuel alone again with the water and the night. When he got home, the apartment was dark except for the thin blue light of the fish tank. He didn't keep fish anymore, just the water, still moving, humming faintly, like a memory that refused to fade. He placed Nora's note on the desk beside a dusty stack of old lecture notes. His hand hovered over them. Then he opened one. Winning is a temporary state. Losing, properly understood, is an art. He closed the folder, sat in silence. Somewhere outside, thunder grumbled like an old man clearing his throat. The next day, he took the early bus. He told himself it was for the library, but even he didn't believe that. The university looked older. Maybe he did too. The ivy had climbed higher on the walls, and the stone steps were cracked, like tired bones. He found the door to Lecture Hall B201 slightly open. Inside, empty seats waited like ghosts of former students. He walked to the lectern, ran his fingers across the wood. Still smooth, still familiar. He closed his eyes and whispered to the room. Is it losing if it brings you peace? The air didn't answer, but it didn't need to. When Tuesday came, he didn't plan to go. He told himself he'd forgotten, that it didn't matter. But at 5:40 p.m., he found himself standing in front of the building again. Old habits die quietly. The door creaked as he entered. A dozen people sat scattered through the hall. Nora, two of his former students, a few curious strangers. They turned as he walked in, uncertain, expectant. He stepped to the front and rested his hands on the lectern. I suppose, he began, you want me to explain why I left. He paused, looked at them, really looked. Truth is, I got tired of trying to win, and tired of pretending that losing was failure. Losing can be grace. It can be freedom. He told them about the quiet mornings since leaving, about the small peace of anonymity, about the absence of ambition. He spoke slowly, softly, like someone talking not to convince, but to remember. Nora watched from the back, her expression unreadable. After half an hour, he stopped. The room was silent. Then a voice, one of his old students, said, So, are you happy now? Samuel smiled faintly. I'm still learning how to be, he said. When it ended, people clapped, awkwardly, unsure whether they were supposed to. Nora waited until they'd gone, then approached. You realize what you did tonight? I talked, he said. No, she said. You came back. He looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. No, Nora. I just stopped running. Outside, the rain had returned, heavier this time. Samuel stood at the steps, feeling it on his face. For the first time in a long while, he didn't hurry to cover himself. He just let it fall. Somewhere deep inside, something uncoiled, quiet, small, but alive. Maybe losing wasn't the opposite of winning. Maybe it was simply a different kind of victory. Chapter 2, The Letter. The morning began with the sound of paper sliding under the door. Samuel had grown used to silence. The kind that stretched between days, soft and unbroken. But that sound, dry, deliberate, cut through it. He sat for a while, staring at the envelope resting on the floor, as if it might vanish if he looked away. The return address was smudged, but he didn't need to read it. He recognized the handwriting immediately, even after 10 years. Daniel Greer, his son. Samuel didn't open it right away. He made coffee first. 2 sugars, though he didn't like it sweet, a habit from when someone else had shared the cup. He sat at the table, steam curling upward like a ghost, and finally broke the seal. Inside was a single page, written in the same neat, careful hand Daniel had learned from his mother. Dad, I don't know if this will reach you. Nora said you still come by the library sometimes. She gave me your address, said you'd want to know. Mom's gone. It was quiet. She asked about you near the end. I didn't know what to say. I'm not writing for closure or forgiveness. I just thought you should know. Daniel. Samuel read it twice, then folded it back along the same crease. The edges trembled slightly in his hands. He whispered to no one. Gone. The words sounded small in the empty room. He walked the rest of the morning, aimlessly, without purpose, through streets that felt heavier than before. The city was bright that day, uncomfortably bright, as if mocking his grief. He passed the park, the same one where the old men played chess. One of them waved. He pretended not to see. By noon, he found himself at the river again, the same bridge where he'd met that young man weeks ago. The water looked different now, less reflective, more honest. He thought of her, of the last time they'd spoken, 10 years, maybe more. She'd stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, voice steady. You teach people how to think, Sam, but you never say what you feel. Feelings change, he'd said. That's what makes them real. She'd left that night with Daniel, who was 17 and full of words he didn't yet mean. Samuel had told himself they were better off. He believed it for a while. The afternoon slipped away in fragments. Footsteps, passing cars, the scent of someone else's lunch. He ended up at the university again, drawn there like a tide he couldn't resist. Nora was at the circulation desk, sorting books. When she looked up and saw him, her smile faltered. "You got it," she said quietly. He nodded. "I'm sorry," she added. "So am I," he said. "For what?" "For everything I never said while there was still time." They sat in the small reading room, the one with the cracked skylight that let in too much light. Nora poured tea into mismatched cups. "You should see him," she said. "Daniel. He teaches history now. The same department you left." Samuel gave a small, pained smile. "Of course he does. He's more like you than you think." "That's what I'm afraid of." Nora leaned forward. "Then talk to him. You still can." He looked at the letter again, the neat handwriting, the restraint in every word. "I don't think he wants to see me." "Maybe not. But he wrote. That means something." Samuel didn't answer. He just stared at the paper, as if the words could undo themselves if he waited long enough. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every sound in the apartment felt amplified, the hum of the refrigerator, the whisper of wind through the vent. He got up, paced, sat, stood again. At 2:17 a.m., he found himself at his desk, pen in hand, staring at a blank page. "Daniel, I got your letter. I'm sorry about your mother. I should have been there, but you already know that. There's a lot I could say, but none of it would change what I left undone. Maybe I just want you to know that I never stopped thinking about you, even when I didn't have the courage to write. If you'll see me, I'll come. Dad." He left it and signed, just in case. Then folded it and stared at the envelope for a long time. Morning would decide whether it was sent. When he finally slept, he dreamed of the classroom again, but it was different this time. The seats were empty except for one. Daniel, as he'd been at 17, arms folded, eyes bright with defiance. "Why'd you quit, Dad?" "Because I couldn't keep pretending." "Pretending what?" "That I knew what I was talking about." Daniel in the dream smiled. Not cruelly, but with a kind of sad understanding. "You could have said that then. I didn't know how. Then maybe now's your chance." He woke before dawn, the room gray and weightless. The letter still waited on the desk. He addressed it. The post office was almost empty. A woman behind the counter asked if he wanted tracking. "No," he said. "I'd rather not know." He stepped outside, feeling both lighter and older. That afternoon, he went back to the park. The chess players were at it again, muttering, squinting at their boards. He watched for a while, then sat beside one of them, a thin man with a cane and a sharp voice. "You play?" the man asked without looking up. "I used to," Samuel said. "Then you still do?" "Sit." They played in silence. Samuel lost 3 games in a row, and each time the man grunted in satisfaction. "Most people hate losing," the man said. "I don't mind it," Samuel replied. "That's how you know you've lived long enough." Samuel smiled. Maybe that's true. 3 days later, the letter came back. Not opened, just stamped in red. Returned to sender. Address unknown. He stared at it for a long time, fingers resting on the envelope like it might still be warm. Then he noticed something small, faint, a handwritten note beneath the red stamp. "Try department office, building 12. No signature. No explanation. But it was something.